Why don't we get started with an introduction? So it's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Suzanne Minor as our webinar speaker today. We all met, for those of you who were able to be on last time, but just a little more of her background. So Dr. Minor attended the University of Miami School of Medicine and then trained at Jackson Memorial Hospital for her residency. In 2010, she joined Florida International University, where she was the founding family medicine clerkship director and is currently Core College of Medicine faculty, continuing to care for underserved patients. She also serves as Assistant Dean for Faculty Development, where she supports clinical faculty who teach medical students and supports all educators in other scholarship roles, such as medical education research, peer reviewing, as well as functions such as advising and mentoring. So Dr. Minor has been really involved with STFM over the years, and some notable accomplishments is she was chair of the STFM steering committee for the group on medical student education, and is also a STFM Foundation trustee and directs this program. So with that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Minor.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Pandy. So the topic I want to talk to you about today is the scholarly mindset. And this is kind of a term that I've made up, putting scholarly and mindset together. And of course, this is part of our new faculty, our scholars program, and the scholarship series. Sorry, I got my tongue twisted there for a moment. So the way that I've split this up, I always think of having kind of a framework is I want to talk about the barriers to scholarship first, and then what is a scholarly approach? What is scholarship? This idea of mentoring and scholarship, and then some really specific tips with scholarship. So barriers to scholarship. The big two I think of as time and fear. Absolutely the ones that we hear the most about. Also imposter syndrome. Some people feel like I should already be competent in this. I don't want others to find out I'm not already really good at this. And like hogwash, right? How are we supposed to be good at something if we haven't done it before? It's a skill, and we really don't have a lot of place to learn this. A fixed mindset, I can't do this. I want to encourage you to change that to a growth mindset. I just can't do it yet. I don't know. And it is a skill requiring practice and feedback. And then culture. We might not have role modeling in scholarship or permission or support to work on scholarship. So I would encourage you to rank your top 3 barriers, and you could put that in the chat if you want to. But if you can think about what your barriers are, then you can consider, okay, so if this is my barrier, then I might think about these are the ways that I might overcome that. But hopefully this series can help you with that. So that was barriers. Let's talk about this idea of a scholarly approach. So scholarly approach, this idea of starting to work on any project or any curriculum with the idea in the back of your mind that, hey, one day this will be scholarship, or this could be scholarship. And so I want to come at it with that perspective. So you want to make everything count 3 times. So what do I mean by 3 times? One is do the work. So whatever the project is, like I heard ultrasound curriculum or refugee clinic or whatever the work is. So you're doing the work. You want to present the work at a conference somewhere or grand rounds. And then you want to publish the work as well. So this idea of having a scholarly approach of thinking, all right, whatever my work is, I hope to present it and publish it somewhere. It's foundational. That way you don't have to go back and kind of rework it to help it to work. So this is an example of some work I did. So when I was the clerkship director for family medicine, I created an assignment for students to attend a yoga and Alcoholics Anonymous group meeting in the community for the clerkship. So my colleagues and I, including my coordinator, Marquita Samuels, we presented at least twice on this work. We've gotten quite a few presentations out of this work. Here's one presentation at STFM, Yoga as a Tool to Promote Student and Patient Wellbeing During the Family Medicine Clerkship. And this one is on the Alcoholics Anonymous part of this assignment, attending an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting as part of the family medicine clerkship. So those are 2 examples of presentations out of this one assignment. And then we published the work. So we had 2 publication aspects. One was the curricular aspect, where we actually published the curriculum in the STFM National Clerkship Curriculum. And then the impact of this project, we published here in the Southern Medical Journal. So we talked about the pilot study for the Alcoholics Anonymous meeting. So that's an example of doing the work, presenting the work, and publishing the work. It's much easier to have a scholarly approach mindset rather than try to retrofit something. Then you're like square peg, round holing it. It's so much easier to make a round peg for the upcoming round hole that you know you're going to face. So what is a scholarly approach? The actual definition by the AAMC, and here's the link for that, is the educator's work is informed by what is known in the field. For example, if you're creating a medical education session or curriculum, first review PubMed and MedEd portal. How is it being taught now? And then you can use this lit search or this review that you do in order to inform creating your new session. So there is a difference between scholarly approach and scholarship. This is actually from Academic Medicine, one of their last pages that they put out, which are last pages for Academic Medicine are kind of infographics. They're a one-page like infographic. So somebody is teaching a coaching curriculum, and then over here they're doing it. They're actually implementing the curriculum the following year. And the scholarly approach would be doing the lit search and making sure they have everything in order to do that well. And then they're disseminating it through publication or presentation. They write a manuscript describing the coaching program and providing teaching and learning resources that is accepted in the MedEd portal. So that would be an example of the curricular aspect. So doing it, disseminating it. So I am such a big fan of Kern's 6 Steps. So if you don't have this book, I highly recommend it. It's really, really good. I don't get any money from encouraging people to purchase this book. And it's not horribly expensive. So Curriculum Development for Medical Educators, it's written by Kern. And when I looked at the history of this, Kern originally presented this at a conference, and then it went on to be published and then moved into a book because it's so useful. So Kern put together 6 steps to guide you through developing a curriculum. The first step is problem identification. So what is the problem? What's being done? The second step is the needs assessment. So what is being done at your site? What needs to be done at your site? 3 is develop the goals and objectives. Like, what does it mean to be successful? Goals, objectives. What do I want my students or participants or stakeholders to learn as a function of participating in whatever this curriculum is? 4 is to develop educational strategies. So I think of this as like your learning activities section of it. In that example earlier, this would be actually writing out the curriculum to go to the Alcoholics Anonymous meeting or to go to a yoga class, and then implementing it. Like, this is actually rolling it out, and then evaluation and feedback. We always want to have constant quality improvement, and it's an ongoing cycle. So this step number 1, problem identification, that's actually where your scholarly approach really comes in. That's where you're going to go, and if I'm developing, for instance, I heard a curriculum around ultrasound, I'm going to do a PubMed search, and I'm going to look on MedEd portal, and I might do a Google Scholar search and see what comes up on ultrasound curriculum. And then I would look for ultrasound curriculum for residencies. I would look specifically for family medicine residencies and see what comes up there. And then I also want to consider going ahead and doing an IRB right around this step as I'm identifying my problem and moving forward on a needs assessment. I just want to plant that seed for doing an IRB early rather than like thinking about, oh, I want to do publication and doing it way over here at the end of your project. So what is scholarship? That's a hard question, right? So scholarship, the definition by the AAMC, is how over time the educator contributes to the knowledge in the field. The easy answers are presenting and publishing the work, but really it's disseminating the work. It's contributing to the knowledge in the field through various means. So Boyer wrote this book, Scholarship Reconsidered, Priorities of the Professorate, and Boyer puts forward 5 different types, 4 originally, and then he adds engagement, different types of scholarship. So discovery, this is often like the old school. I'm going to ask a research question. I'm going to have hypotheses. I'm going to like look up, have a control group and an experimental group. That's kind of the scholarship of discovery. We don't have this very much in MedEd. We have the scholarship of integration, bringing things together, application, applying theory into concrete practice, teaching, which is what we're doing usually. But I also saw some of the items that you put in the chat. Some of those could be application or integration. And then also engagement is actually using any of these other scholarships, but specifically towards societal needs. So those are the different kinds of scholarship. And then how do you know if it is scholarship? So again, another book out there that was published, Scholarship Assessed, is by Glassick. Glassick put forth 6 criteria. And if you have these items, then you know it's scholarship. So are there clear goals? Is there adequate preparation, appropriate methods, significant results, effective presentation, and reflective critique? So you might notice that Glassick's criteria really runs in parallel with Kern's curriculum, 6 steps of curriculum development. So don't be afraid by this slide. I know it's a little bit scary. Just look right now at the left 2 columns. So these are Kern's 6 steps. And I've color coded them because I really like organization. Problem identification, needs assessment, and goals and objectives. Those actually map, if you're going to write a paper, this is your background section. So this actually maps to a background section if you're going to write a publication. And with Glassick scholarship criteria, clear goals and adequate preparation, those map to your first 3 steps of Kern's curriculum development. Now, steps 4 and 5, developing your educational strategies and implementing those strategies, that's going to be your methods section for your scholarship. And then evaluation and feedback, that's your last step of curriculum development. That's your results for Glassick's scholarship criteria. And then the next step, and also evaluation and feedback, that goes into your reflective critique when you're thinking, okay, so this is what I've got. How do I use this to move forward? And then the next step that's not there that Glassick adds that Kern's 6 steps don't have are effective presentation. And effective presentation just means that it's organized, it's well written, it makes sense that people can use this presentation, whether it's in an actual presentation, a PowerPoint, or a publication, and that information, that presentation contributes to your field of study. So I added 2 columns over here. The first column is the AAMC conference poster submission criteria or organization categories that they have. So purpose. So the purpose matches to those first 3 in Kern's and the first 2 in Glassick's. The approach or methods, again, methods section, and then results, discussion, and significance, that comes from your evaluation and feedback of your project or the results and critique of Glassick's criteria. And then your reference section. I put references in blue because when you do your background search, that's where you're going to get your references. And then for STFM, since we are an STFM, I have an annual conference submission, abstract, and content objectives and session objectives. This is actually like how you are going to make this presentation at STFM. So that's your effective presentation. That's why that's in green. Your background, statement of problem and rationale, that's your background section. That's going to be your first 3 steps for your Kern's curriculum development, and then your results and your references. So there's a lot of information here. Let's take a pause for a second. Any questions, any thoughts, any comments about this? Because this is foundational. This was my aha moment with helping myself to figure out, like, this is the secret sauce, the recipe for scholarship. So the next thing I wanted to touch on is mentoring and scholarship. So mentors help with research skills and development and establishing a link between theory and practice. They're even more critical for female and minority new investigators for whom effective mentoring can have exponential effects in their willingness to engage in research. Having a research mentor has been identified as a strong indicator to publishing and obtaining grants, and mentors help junior investigators navigate the hidden rules of scholarship and identify pathways. So this is where a mentor could be really, really helpful to you in all of these various areas of moving forward. If you're thinking about finding a research mentor, which I highly recommend, Look for someone who's doing similar work. Ask. Reach out to your department or institution, your academic society, specifically the new Faculty Scholars Program, or STFM has a coaching program that we are encouraging all of you to get involved in and at least put one item out there and get some coaching through the coaching project or program. Also, the AAMC has GEA SIGs. So what is a GEA SIG? The Group on Educational Affairs. This is for people working with medical students because it's the AAMC. And SIG stands for Specialty Interest Group. I'm a member of the Faculty Development SIG, and I have, oh my goodness, I have been publishing with this group. We have like 3 or 4 publications. We have at least 5 to 10 presentations that we've worked on as a group. I've really enjoyed working with this group in addition to my STFM colleagues. And then I actually get a monthly lit search sent to me on faculty development from the NCBI. I set that up on their webpage. You can also get information from QXMD, and I put the link there. I tried it out. It didn't work out as well for me. I really like the NCBI lit searches I set up to get once a month. That really is helpful. And then Sandy also put in there the STFM collaboratives are also a good place to look. Absolutely, Sandy. I think of that was the academic society. I have published with the Medical Student Education Collaborative. It was the group on at that point, but excellent, excellent group. So involving URM faculty and learners in scholarly research through mentorship, really, really important. This is an excellent webinar that was done by the URM Scholarship Work Group. I wanted to give a plug for it. It is so well done. I highly recommend watching it. It is a webinar that provides practical strategies for engaging in effective research mentorship, both from the perspective of the mentor and of the mentee. So both sides of that mentoring relationship. And the objectives that this webinar describe are to describe the benefits of scholarly research participation, to identify primary characteristics of an effective mentorship relationship, and to increase the application of effective mentorship engagement strategies. It's an excellent, excellent webinar, highly, highly recommend. And then some specific tips as you're thinking about coming at things with a scholarly mindset. So I actually have a worksheet, which I will email to Sandy and ask her to email to the group that I put together for my faculty here that I work with that I'm happy to share with you. So the first item on the worksheet is, what is the idea? So this is what you all typed in the chat earlier. The second question is, what is the problem or the need, including the relevance? And the answer to this question is Kern's step 1 and step 2. And this actually will contribute to your introduction or background section of your presentation or publication. The third question is, what does the literature say about this issue or topic? And this is part of Kern step 1. This will also contribute to the introduction and background and the reference section of your paper as well. What are the project or curriculum goals and objectives? And this is Kern step 3, contributes to the goals, backgrounds, and somewhat to the method section as well. And then the next question, what is the project or curriculum strategy or method? How do you plan to implement it? And what are those implementation details? This is Kern steps 4 and 5, and will contribute to your method section of either your presentation or your publication. How will this project be evaluated? How do I know if it is successful, and what does success look like? I think this is such an important question we often don't ask early on. And do I need to involve an assessment or statistics faculty? I do, because I'm not very good at assessment or statistics as much. I'm good at assessment, not statistics. So Kern steps 4 and 6 come from these questions, and this contributes to your results section. What is the impact of these results? Why are they important? How will they inform future med ed or patient care? How will they inform the future in this field? And that is Kern step 6 and contributes to your discussion section. How can this be improved? How does the evaluation data contribute to improving this project, and what limitations were found? Again, this is part of Kern step 6, that quality improvement section, and also goes with your reflective critique, which is a part of your discussion section, which is also the conclusion usually. So those 2 pages, all of these questions, if you answer those, you have the content for your presentation or your publication. And then these purple questions at the end, this is more to help you start thinking about, all right, so as I'm thinking about this project, this is part of that scholarly mindset. You want to think about the end. It's kind of like backwards design, actually, but for publication. What type of presentation will you plan on submitting and where? So do you think you want to do a poster or a completed research project or a work in progress at STFM? All of you will be presenting at STFM as part of the New Faculty Scholars Project. So you actually already kind of have that built into your worksheet here. And then where can you disseminate the curricular piece? I think that since I put this together, the National Clerkship Curriculum, I don't think is accepting new curriculum, but Med-Ed Portal is an excellent place to put your curriculum piece. Also, the AAMC has something called iCollaborative, which is not peer-reviewed, but will allow curricular pieces to be presented. And what I mean by curricular piece, Med-Ed Portal is, they think of their resource as being off the shelf. You could get something and you have everything there that you can just adapt to presenting in your session or adapt to curriculum at your school or your residency. And where can you disseminate the outcomes piece and in what format? For instance, Family Medicine, which is the journal of STFM, has a section called Brief Reports. That's an excellent place to publish. It's peer reviewed. Also, this is a little easier, and I think of this as a way to get started. STFM Messenger is a monthly online journal that goes out, and it has a medical educator column, or it's a monthly newsletter that goes out, and it has a medical educator column that is peer reviewed. So I really would recommend thinking about submitting to this medical educator column. And then where can you disseminate on the clinical application of the project? For instance, can you write something for AAFP or American Family Physician? Also, STFM has a quality improvement conference. That might be a great place to disseminate clinical application projects. So be creative and think outside the box. This is where a mentor can be really, really helpful. Also, we'll talk about other ways. There's a great website called Jane, and I think that Dr. Pandy might include that in her presentation, that might help you think about places to publish as well. So we talked about those internal barriers earlier. I really recommend identifying them, lean into them. We know that language is used a lot, right? Leaning into it, being vulnerable to it, but being aware of like, okay, this is what's going on with me. And once you're aware of it, then you can address it, right? Then you can face or address or cope with it. For instance, imposter syndrome or fixed mindset, like I have rampant imposter syndrome, but I'm able to address it. The voice is a little quieter now, but it's still there. And I'm just able to say, look, what's the evidence show? Well, the evidence shows that I actually really enjoy publishing and presenting, and I'm going to work with this material and it's going to come out and it's going to be well done. And so imposter syndrome, get back to where you need to go, because you're just a feeling and you don't have to guide what I'm doing. Fixed mindset, you just don't know it yet. So fixed mindset is, I don't know how to do this, or I can't do this. Growth mindset is, I can't do it yet, but I'm going to learn this skill and I'm going to be able to overcome it. What's the historical evidence? This is what I was telling you earlier. The evidence is you have learned new skills before and you have overcome challenges. So you can do the same thing with this. There's nothing magical about writing. It's just a different skill set. If the barrier is time, I encourage small bites. You might block time off on your calendar or set aside time in your schedule. I just started some writing accountability groups at my institution at FIU. Faculty are really excited about that. If anyone wants further information on that, I can share that. They're really quite amazing. I might have a slide. If I don't, I'm going to write it down to come back to those. So we talked about fixed versus growth mindset. Carol Dweck is a PhD researcher, and she wrote this really great book called Mindset, but there's also, this article is an easier, it's only 4 pages, so it's a quick read. But she really talks about this idea of if we can look at the behavior or the performance rather than the performer, then that can help us to move into a growth mindset about a topic or an issue. And then Regarding the skill, seek out and ask for help. As far as thinking about skills, barriers, fears, and guidance, mentors, colleagues, counselors, or coaches, we have so many resources available to us. So I did not have a slide on writing accountability groups, so I'll tell you about those really quickly. Writing accountability groups, how are we doing on time? We're okay. Writing accountability groups are something that were started at Johns Hopkins. That's where they were published about. And they actually, you meet for 1 hour a week for 10 weeks. And then in the writing accountability group, the first few minutes, the first 15 minutes, everyone talks about, hey, this is what I want to work on. This is what I plan to do in today's 1 hour writing session. And then you spend 30 minutes writing. And I think of it as parallel play. Everyone just writes, and Zoom is a really great way to do a writing accountability group. Everyone just turns off their camera, and if anyone has a question or a comment, they turn on their camera or their microphone and it says something to the group. And then the last 15 minutes, you talk about, okay, this is what I did, this is what went well, this is what didn't go well, and kind of troubleshoot a little bit. But what happens with a writing accountability group is you have this small community of practice around writing, and you get to learn the process of writing with a group of people. And so it's almost like a group mentoring process, but you get to learn little things that are helpful or useful to other people and how they're writing. So I'm really excited. I've never done a writing accountability group before, but we started one Friday and I start another one today based on different schedules. So I'll let you know how those go. I'm really excited about that. And then usually about 4 to 8 people. You don't want to have a very large group, but you don't want to have like just 1 or 2 people either to do a writing accountability group. So team, that is everything I have. I'm going to stop sharing.